If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, full-time observer, joined by Jack Hirsch, former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association, coming off of Super Bowl 60. Jack and I, before we came on, we were rehashing our first Super Bowl memories and talking about the game. Jack, let's just start off with that, and then we can go into Canelo because of the halftime show kind of had a flavor to it like that.
Well, it had a little boxing in it. You could tie
it had a little boxing.
You could tie it, and they made cameos. Enthusiast and Emiliano Vargas.
So anyhow,
they were shadow box. They
right.
had the gloves on, and they were like throwing the little punches in the background. A couple of Puerto Rico's fighters, who are well known. I don't want to say worldwide, the hardcore boxing fans.
Although Zayas is a unified champ.
Yeah, exactly. So they had a cameo, and I'm never into the halftime shows. I'm not critical of it in any way, shape, or form. I just don't. I hardly watch it. I like the games, Frank, and I like to unwind at halftime. The TV was on. It looked entertaining from what I could see, but I wasn't paying close attention.
Jack, but you say you like the games. The game wasn't really that good.
Well, you never know.
If you like defense, it was good.
You never know what's going to happen. Sometimes these football games resemble a boxing match. One fighter could be outclassing the other, and then suddenly it could turn in the later rounds. It could, a fighter could get cut, he could get staggered, the guy on top could get tired. Listen, we saw it happen when the Falcons had the 28-3 lead over New England in the past Super Bowl, and they had a 99.8% chance of winning. So you never know.
It's sad that football's over, Jack. I don't like this. Is my least favorite time of the year, February, March. I know you're a baseball guy. I'm not. But there have been some fights that have been announced that may get our blood flowing. But before we get to that, did you see where Canelo came out and said he kind of wants to run it back again with Terrence Crawford, and he didn't take away for any of the things that Crawford accomplished and gave him full credit for the win, but he said he just couldn't figure out the style.
No, not really, Frank. I'm going to tell you why. After Canelo lost to Crawford, he was extremely complimentary. He was a great sportsman. He gets an A+ for that. And Canelo wanting a rematch, he's a competitor. Fine. In a way, I, though, don't blame Canelo for what he's saying. And he said that unless Crawford ran it back with him and gave him a rematch, he could never get full credit for beating him. Okay, full credit. He acknowledges Crawford.
Who couldn't get full credit, Jack? Crawford?
Crawford. But then again, if you listen to what Crawford had said before, Crawford said he thinks Canelo won maybe one round when they fought. Saying that Canelo only won one round is the same exact thing as saying that Canelo won the fight. I mean, Crawford beat him 8 rounds to 4, 116 to 112. It was an impressive 8-round-to-4 victory, okay? It was a decisive 8-round-to-4 victory. But nevertheless, Canelo was competitive. He competed. He had his moments. He wasn't outclassed by Crawford. And that's the narrative going around, that Crawford outclassed Canelo. He didn't outclass Canelo. He beat him clearly, and that's all there was to it.
But Jack, look, Canelo won more than one round because Crawford always loses a couple rounds in the beginning of the fight.
Yeah.
But I say from the 5th or 6th round on, the outcome of the fight was never in question. What I don't like about what
Frank, it's always in
it wasn't in question, Jack. You knew Canelo was not going to land a lucky punch to knock him out, and Crawford was picking him apart. But my issue with Canelo is this. I can see why he's, why it stings. But Jack, you know what? How many times did Canelo give rematches to guys that he barely beat? Okay, nobody got rematches. The only one that got a rematch was Golovkin, because a lot of people believe, including myself, and I think you too, that Golovkin beat Canelo the first time clearly, and the fight was scored a draw.
Right,
So he
right,
got a rematch. But did Lara get a rematch? None of the guys that ran him close got rematches.
no, it's a lot different because Canelo is a major star. The guys he beat were champions, but not major stars. Look, the fight with Danny Jacobs was close. No need to run it back. Jacobs isn't a big star. Lara, wonderful fighter. He's not a major star. Austin Trout, wonderful fighter, but he's not a major star.
So
There's
because
no need
Canelo's a
to run
star,
it
he should
back.
get that treatment and
No,
get
no,
the
no, but
rematch.
Canelo legitimately won those fights in the eyes of many. Some people think Lara won, some people think Trout won, but it wasn't a big uproar. As far as the Golovkin fight went, Canelo had to have a rematch in the second fight because most people thought he lost and was
Exactly.
kind of gifted with a draw. And then Canelo waited in the third fight until Golovkin was past his prime. It's what it is. But
Jack, if
Canelo
they
is.
fight again, Canelo wouldn't do as good.
I agree. If they fought again, if Crawford didn't retire, it's hard to find many people who pick Canelo to win. I mean, it would really be a bit of a long shot. Canelo is claiming he wasn't physically right for the fight. He knows this, he knows that, but that's what all fighters say. How many fighters who lose a fight are going to just say, he's better than me? I did everything perfectly. It just wasn't good enough. And even then, they're going to have to
That's a
say, well,
short list.
right. Then they're going to have to say, I'll make adjustments in fight, during the fight. And, sometimes they talk very graciously, like Canelo did right after the fight, but then as time goes by, the excuses start building up. But Canelo's coming back in September. I want to ask you, do you think he could be the Canelo he was before the Crawford fight?
That's an interesting question, Jack. I guess it all depends on who he fights. I mean, he didn't take a physical beating in that fight. So Canelo's running close to 36 now. We're going to see some slippage on him, and some people think we've already seen it. I guess it all depends on who he fights, Jack. Has there been any names thrown out?
No names thrown out, but Canelo might be under the illusion he can pick his spots whenever he wants. He could bring along any opponent he wants. Maybe he could do it for the first fight back in September because he's been off a while. There's going to be interest in Canelo no matter who he fights, but he's going to have the best possible fight after that. You know what's intriguing in a sense? We never heard how the sparring went, him and Boots Ennis. If Boots Ennis reportedly today, according to Mike Coppinger, was just reported that Ennis and Virgil Ortiz is being targeted for April in Las Vegas. Let's say
Right.
it does take place. I believe and you believe that Boots Ennis is going to win that fight. Now, if Boots Ennis wins the fight, that's at 154. I mean, does Canelo fight him at a catch weight? Both guys would move up to 160 in a snap of the finger to fight Canelo.
Canelo's not going below 160, Jack.
No, he won't. But let's say Canelo wants to fight at 168. Both guys would move up to two divisions to fight him. It would be too much of a payday. I kind of wonder, again, how did the Boots in the sparring sessions go? Because you'd use Boots in as a sparring session. That is awesome. I'm telling you, as a sparring
That was the
partner.
guy to use to get ready for Crawford.
Yeah, but what came out of it? Did he beat Canelo up at times? Did Canelo get the better of him? I mean, both guys have to have a big impression of one another. Boots has to be thinking, I could beat this guy. I know I can beat this guy. Or maybe Boots has some doubts, sparring with him. And the same with Canelo. Canelo might think, this guy's going to be a handful if I ever
Here's
fought
what
this
I think,
guy
Jack.
for real.
I think it was probably give and take when they sparred. And I think after watching Crawford against Canelo, I think that Boots' confidence, if they were to sign the fight, would probably be a little bit higher than it would have been otherwise. And I think Canelo, based on the sparring and what happened with Crawford, I think he might have a little reservation. I think Canelo would match up better with Ortiz than he would Boots.
Speaking of Crawford, he's saying no amount of money is going to get him back in the ring. But Canelo might be talking. And if Crawford could come back for $100 million, I mean, he might be thinking to himself, okay, I'm going to do it one more time. Just shut his mouth. I know I can handle this guy. And I'm definitely not fighting again after that.
Well, I'll make a prediction right here, Jack.
Yeah.
If they throw $100 million to Terrence Crawford to fight Canelo in a rematch, he will come out of he will unretire for that.
Well,
if it's that much money.
Somehow I believe him. I think he's going to be a rarity. This is my prediction. And not come back to the ring because the big money is going to be offered to him. I mean, I went on after Hagler lost to Leonard. I remember I went on a local cable boxing show, and they asked me about Hagler. Is he going to come back to the ring? Is he going to retire? And I said, no, he'll be back in the ring without a doubt. And he never came back to the ring, but he would have come back to the ring had Leonard accommodated him within a year and had to rematch.
I forget how I felt after that fight, if Hagler was going to fight again or not. I thought that it was plausible that there'd be a rematch, but Hagler was just so bitter. By the time that he got over it, the hype for the fight kind of died.
I mean, boxing of all sports has the most comebacks. More guys than in any other sport who've retired come back. Because they have an option to always come back. I guess if you're a baseball player, football, NBA player, you might not have a roster spot. And if they're going to give you a roster spot, if you've made big money, you're going to make small money on a comeback.
But that's the difference, Jack. You have to make the team. And if you ran 9-4 and now you're running 9-6, you're not going to make the team. Where in boxing, it's more individual and it's not as regulated. So it's easier for fighters to come back. But I have one for you, and this totally escaped both of our minds. And I just thought about it. But, there's talk that Floyd Mayweather is having some financial problems, and there are rumors that he may fight again.
That is the toughest thing that Floyd Mayweather is going to have to go through, because Floyd Mayweather, as you pointed out many times, is extremely protective of his unbeaten record. He's not going to want to jeopardize it under any condition. But if you're flat out broke and you can,
which is hard to picture for him,
I'm telling you, all signs point that he's hurting. And the telltale sign is going to be if he sues Al Heyman, because he swore by Al Heyman. And $340 million, are they just noticing it now? And for the amount of money Mayweather has made, and there've been other.
But he didn't make it, Jack, if he wasn't paid.
Yeah, okay. Let's see what's going on. But all the exhibitions he fought, he fought those exhibitions maybe in part to stay in the limelight. I understand big ego, you need to be in the limelight.
Right.
I get the feeling he's really hurting financially. Now, can he live the type of lifestyle we could live if we had millions? Look, Frank, if someone handed you $20 million, you're going to live in your own view luxuriously the rest of your life. $20 million for you luxuriously. Mayweather, $20 million, if that's all he has, he's not putting it in.
He's broke in his mind.
A money market. In his mind, he's broke because he can't just snap his fingers and go in and buy like a $500,000 car on a whim.
Jack,
so, yeah.
This is a cold thing to say, but if it is true that Mayweather is broke, or he does have to really adjust his lifestyle, I hate to say this, but there's a part of me that's happy about it, because there's a guy that he threw his wealth in front of his face and in front of, rubbed other people's faces in his wealth and just was so off-putting in his way, the way he would go around with wheelbarrows full of money and having his two big bodyguards with him. You know, I didn't think I would live to see it, and I didn't think it would ever happen. But if I see Mayweather in financial trouble before I die, I will like that. He's the only fighter I could say that about.
Yeah, like with Mayweather, he would have an entourage, like as if he was a head of state, the president of another country walking with him. If you go to YouTube, you might be able to get this. Go BWAA Mayweather Fight of the Year. There's a short clip. I presented him the Fight of the Year award at the MGM in Vegas. You see him getting out of a white limo and walking into the MGM and surrounded by a bunch of bodyguards. And he likes to live that type of life. I don't think he flaunts it to put other people down. I don't think
I think he does.
I don't think he's ever poked fun at people where you don't have money.
But you don't. But Jack, when you flaunt it, you are mocking other people. You don't have to say I have this and you don't. By you advertising that and being that garish, you are basically throwing it in everybody's face. I know a guy, Jack, who is very well-to-do, who lives in Vegas, and he told me about the Rolls-Royce dealership, the big Rolls-Royce dealership that's in Vegas, and he said he happened to be in there one day getting his Bentley serviced, and he said Mayweather walked in with two guys that looked like they were 3 times bigger than Reggie White, and he said, I want that one, and that one, and I want them in an hour. And they jumped to get him ready. And we're talking about cars that were like between $400,000 and $600,000.
And you wonder with Mayweather, is he paying his taxes on time? Does he have to write people this and that? And look, that might.
Yeah, he has a couple watches that are over $1 million. Couple watches.
That is insane. That is insane. I mean, sometimes people make moves that you wonder, like when Kobe Bryant years ago was caught cheating on his wife, he bought her a $4 million ring. And you know what I was thinking? $4 million. They could have bought, a house for $2 million. Hold on to the other $2 million to pay taxes over the years and other things, home improvements. Come on, just a ring.
But Kobe had crazy wealth too. But Jack, think about this. Let's just say Mayweather has to fight again. He's not going to fight for 10 or 20 million. He's going to want to fight for 100 million. And to do that,
top dollar. If it's a real,
but Jack, he's going to have to fight somebody.
But absolutely,
he can't fight Andre Berto for $100 million. He's got to fight somebody good.
His unbeaten record would have to be on the line. Would absolutely have to be on the line
for the fight to draw. Right.
The question's this, Frank. This is a great situation. If he can sell off his assets for the most part, pay off his bills, and let's say he has $25 million, and that's it, no more money's coming in. The rest you got to put in a money market, a CD, hope to draw interest, have that type of discipline.
On that type of money, he could get 8% guaranteed.
Or Frank. Or he decides, no, I want the really big money. I want to get a couple of $100 million from Turkey. I need it. Does he put his unbeaten record on the line, or does he live off 20 million, 25 million?
Jack, that's because think about it. If he had to live off 25 million, that's actually an insult to him. And if he has to put his record on the line, I mean, he could always say, well, look, nobody beat me in my prime. But that would be a hell of a decision he'd have to make. That would be pretty tough. I would say, I think he would go for the big money, and I think he would try to manipulate the terms of the fight like he did his other fights and really try to tilt it in his favor. But you know what? That'll be hard to do now.
Well, who's he going to beat? He fought last at 147. Okay, if he came back at most, he's not a big guy. He'd be
147 again.
I mean, the fight's out there. Could he, an old version of Floyd Mayweather? We saw what Manny Pacquiao did at 46. I would think him and Pacquiao would be the fight. That would be the big fight he could most likely win. But maybe he can.
I have a bigger one.
Ryan Garcia, right?
A rematch with Canelo.
I don't think he could beat Canelo at this point.
That
Not
would
at
be
this
huge,
point.
though. He probably, I don't know. I don't think he could either, although he'd
I
probably bring him down to 148
no,
pounds.
no, no, no,
But
no. But he
that would
would.
be huge.
Mayweather would probably be thinking, who can I beat? And he would look at a Manny Pacquiao and figuring, I still think I could beat him, even
Uh,
though Pacquiao fought well for 46-year-old against
he
Mario
matches
Barrios.
up with Pacquiao.
Yeah, he matches up with Pacquiao, and he maybe matches up, believe it or not, with Ryan Garcia. Maybe the Ryan Garcia who lost to Raleigh Romero was dreadful, even though Mayweather could have maybe beaten that version of Garcia.
I want to see, and I agree with that, but I do want to see what Garcia looks like against Barrios because I have a
Yeah,
feeling, Jack, he's going to surprise us and look good. I
yeah,
just had that feeling.
I get the feeling Garcia, yeah, is going to KO Barrios. He's going to come back,
He's
kind of
got
with a
that big
vengeance.
punch, and Barrios isn't much of a
Yeah,
puncher, so he's not going to get him out.
right,
I think he's going to look good in that fight.
right.
If
No, I
when it
agree.
happens. Jack, also, we talked about Ortiz and Ennis. Hopefully, after the 2 or 3 months of this drumbeat, that it's going to happen. We both like we both like Ennis, but you know what, Jack? On the heels of Tiafimo and Shakur, that would be another big high-profile fight that I think the boxing community would come out for and really support that one.
Well, it would be a different type of fight because Virgil Ortiz has no fair boots in it. He really believes
I don't think he fears
100% in his
anybody.
mind he's going to beat Boots Ennis. He wants to fight. He wants to fight Boots Ennis, maybe even worse than Ennis wants to fight him. Now, don't get me wrong. Ennis is probably 100% confident he'll beat Ortiz, but
But wait a second. There's two
look,
different. Does he want to fight him in the manner that Frazier did Ali the first time because it solidifies who he is, or does he want to, or is it more? Does he have the Ali mindset? Well, he's the guy that everybody says is good, and I'll beat him and get rid of him.
no, no,
Two
no.
different mindsets.
Right. I think Ortiz's mindset is, look, I want to prove I'm the best. I'm better than
Okay,
this guy.
he's got
I
the
want it
smoking Joe
badly.
mindset.
And I think Boots Ennis's mindset is, I need a big fight. I haven't been able to get a big fight, and this is the guy who could provide me with the spotlight and the big payday. You know what? You know what gets me, which kind of like annoys me a little bit. These promoters, and Eddie Hearn is really slick with this, and I like Eddie Hearn. I think for the most part, he's open and honest when you hear him get interviewed. So I'm not saying Eddie Hearn is a phony, but Eddie Hearn keeps talking about legacy. He says the money is going to come, but it's about legacy. I'd love to hear promoters say it's all. I think I've said this in the past show. If I haven't, I'm saying it now. I'd love to hear Eddie Hearn say, no, it's about the money right now. The legacy will come later. That would be my attitude. If I were a fighter and I'm his handlers, I say, no, don't talk to me about legacy now. It's all about money. By the end of my career, I'll have the legacy, but I want the money now. I don't want to hear the money comes later. The money has to come now. The legacy will come later. I'd love to hear that.
I think it, Jack. I think they'll say whatever they think sells at the moment. Legacy or money. Crawford talks about legacy now, although in his defense, he never really did talk about money. Mayweather talked about money and legacy, but we both knew he was more about just being undefeated. And
No,
again, go ahead.
no, Crawford said something he's correct. Unlike virtually every other champion, all of them just about, he never had a blip in his career where he came close to losing. I mean, some guys pushed him. Canelo pushed him. Some other guys pushed him, but no one came close to beating him. But you could argue,
No one
well,
came close to beating him. You're right.
yeah,
Madrimov, he didn't look great against, but he was never in
Nazimov,
doubt or in
yeah.
jeopardy.
Well, no, there were a couple of fights. The Madrimov fight, he left the door open to a bad decision going against him. He kind of left the door open to that,
I don't think so, Jack. But
Okay, matter of opinion there. Yeah.
I mean,
But
Madrimov was look. The difference is Crawford against Madrimov did not look like all world Crawford. He looked a little bit vulnerable. That like, hey, you're just not going to walk through everybody. But to me, he was in control of the fight and wasn't going to lose.
If you want to compare Roy Jones's until Roy Jones hit the wall around the Antonio Tarver time, and then he went downhill completely. Jones in his prime, all those wins, and if he retired after the John Ruiz fight, Roy Jones's career would have exceeded what Crawford later did had he retired at that time. And then if we were talking who is greater, Jones or Crawford, I think the vast majority of people would have said Jones. You know what
annoys me about that, Jack, and I agree with you. But Roy Jones, I hear a lot of guys question who he fought. And look, not everybody has the list of killers that, Ali and Holyfield and Duran and Leonard had. But Jack, if you look at Roy Jones's career when he was on, think about it. He took a near prime Hopkins. He didn't shut him out, but he won 7 or 8 rounds of the fight clearly.
Yeah, he won shut out James, 8-9 rounds. Yeah.
Right. He shut out James Toney virtually. And then he moved up. And no, he didn't beat the best heavyweight in the world. When he beat Ruiz, he was maybe the 3rd or 4th best heavyweight at the time. And he lapped him, Jack. Now, if you take those 3 wins, they're as credible as any wins that any other fighters have. I mean, look how Toney and Hopkins are revered today. And even Ruiz, it's like Ruiz is not looked at as a bum. Was he all world? No, he wasn't one of the greats, but he wasn't just a Johnny come lately either. They are fantastic wins. And I have said all along, those 3 wins outweigh any 3 wins Mayweather ever put together.
Well, not so much the wins in itself. In the overall body of work in his prime, he rarely lost a round. That would be the thing about it. I mean, Crawford would lose some of the early rounds, sizing an opponent up. Jones lost so few rounds.
Crawford, to me, was the better technically, but Jones was just so superior physically and gifted athletically that he, if we had the list of 5 greatest fighters ever as far as gifts, talent, ability, and skill, it'd be kind of hard to keep Roy Jones off that list.
Yeah. But boxing, getting back to Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis, boxing badly needs to fight because you mentioned the football season has come to an end. Spring training in baseball is going to begin very shortly this month. And then we're going to have the season. And then, of course, we're getting further into the NBA season. The playoffs are going to begin. That's going to be interesting. But there's really nothing like the NFL once it gets started. I mean,
and Jack, if you think about you just said baseball doesn't really get interesting until after the All-Star game. So now we're July. Is the NBA still is it still popular, Jack? I mean, does Luka Doncic and Djokovic, do they draw people? Are there guys watching NBA games now?
Oh yeah, no, the NBA is very popular. The playoffs are going to come around. That's the popularity factor. The NFL draft is going to be tremendously popular. The buildup is now going to start, which players are going to go to which teams. But in the case of boxing, there's so few big fights we're thirsting for it because in reality, Virgil Ortiz Boots Ennis is no more than a very good fight. It shouldn't be considered a mega fight. It really shouldn't.
Is it Donald Perry, Marlon Starling?
Yeah, it's along those lines. I mean, in reality. And that was just a so-so fight. I mean, when you think of it, Donald Curry and Boots Ennis, the Curry of that time, it's like a wash. They're pretty even, you could say, as far as how good they were. Remember how good
Donald Curry, 82 to
Probably
85.
ahead of Boots. He's right ahead of Boots.
I would say a little bit ahead of him too.
We knocked out McCrory and Marlon Starling and Virgil Ortiz about the same. I mean, and that's complimenting Virgil Ortiz to an extent. Okay, I mean different styles. I'm talking about how good they were. So yeah,
The
but what other?
difference is, Jack, the only difference is Starling, because he fought so many good guys, had a few close losses, where Ortiz hasn't fought quite the quality of opposition. If he would have fought the same guy Starling fought on the way up that Marlon did, he might have a nick here or there too.
But you got me thinking, Frank. We call for the big fights, the mega fights, okay? And if you and I could make any fights we wanted to, actually, the fighters would agree with us. They would go through with the fights and we could afford to pay them. How many mega fights could we make even if we tried? I don't want to hear Fury and Anthony Joshua. That's an entertainment fight. It's a very good heavyweight fight. Don't misunderstand me. But it's not, a colossal fight. Joshua's outside of being
There's no heavyweight fight, Jack, that's colossal right now,
No, and
unless it's a Tama against Usyk.
Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois. That's a nice UK fight. Let them put on the UK in their stadium. The fans will enjoy it. It's entertaining, but worldwide, neither guy is truly top of the line. They're good, competent fighters. And
I
in
think
the lower weight divisions, we had for a little while Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson had the potential to be a mega fight, but Tank's went off the rails. He's no longer a factor. Maybe he can inch his way back, if he doesn't get thrown in jail. And I wish him well, whatever. But
he's going to be on the shelf for a while, I think, this time.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Jack, if you said to me the big fights, all right, Benavidez against either Bivol or Bitter Beef would be pretty much on that line.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we're doing a four-fight show, pay-per-view. We're giving the fans four the best matchups we can. You and I have more, make believe we have a little more money than Turkey. We could take any four fights we want. I like that. I would put Bivol in against Benavidez instead of Better Beef, because if Benavidez beat Better Beef, we could argue, well, maybe Better Beef was a little long in the tooth. He hit 40 years old. And Bivol has a serious chance of beating Benavidez because of his style, movement. Can Benavidez track him down? Intriguing fight.
I think I think Bivol matches up better with him than Benavidez.
Okay, but the idea is very intriguing. Either guy can win. Okay. What else are we looking at? What do we have for Shakur Stevenson that would be, mega big?
With Tank off the shelf.
Tank off.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
It's a really hard one. And the ironic part about it, Boots and Virgil Ortiz might actually make the cut of the top four legitimately.
I'll give you one that I know you'll argue with me on, and you're going to go on and on. He's not ready, and all that is true. But seriously, what heavyweight in the world could we see Usyk fight where anyone would give the other guy a snowball's chance to win? And I say the only guy is Atama. I know he's only had 13 or 14 fights, but I think his skill set, his speed, his power, his confidence. I mean, we've never seen Usyk in with anybody like that, and obviously Atama's never fought anybody like Usyk. But it's like, if you take him off, who are we going to match Usyk with?
Listen, it's intriguing. It's intriguing because Atama is supposed to be the future of the division. We also heard Michael Grant was going to be the future of the division, and then they threw him with Lennox Lewis, and we saw what happened. I don't think that would happen with Utama, okay?
Remember, Galata had Grant down, and Grant came back to beat him, but he almost lost that fight.
Yeah. But the problem, you make Usyk and Utama, maybe Utama upsets him. Maybe he's that good. Maybe he's that good that he actually beats Usyk. It's possible. I wouldn't be flabbergasted if it happened. Okay, I wouldn't.
Then you must think a lot of it, Tama, because that's a pretty big ask.
I do think a lot of them, but also I could see a scenario where Usyk just beats him up, stops him in 8 rounds, and we're thinking, why did we put him in over his head so early?
But at least he brings something to the fight, Jack.
It's a pay-per-view fight. You want to know something, Frank? It's a heavyweight pay-per-view. So we have two now. We're holding in reserve Innes and Ortiz to see if we could do better than that. We got Benavidez and Bivol. We have Usyk and Otam. And this isn't about entertainment per se.
It's matchups that people want to see.
Really, the hardcore boxing fans. So I don't want to hear nonsense. Ryan Garcia against Teofimo Lopez. I mean, and then I'm not disrespecting Teofimo.
You are a little bit, but he deserves it.
No, I'm more going against Garcia.
I just want to mess with you, Jack.
No. I know you are, but at least Teofimo Lopez has always taken the top challenges. Okay, and he's earned it, and he's come through a number of times. And the only time, when Garcia came through a shining moment, he didn't make weight. He was PEDs, and then he lost badly to Raleigh Romero coming off the suspension. But no
I have one for you, Jack. We can't see it, but they didn't miss each other by that much. But a friend of mine texted me the other night after the show, and he said, "Who would you favor, or who would you pick to win, Shakur Stevenson against the best Lomachenko?" And I said, "Ask me that this time next year." What are your thoughts?
I thought
that's a tough one.
That is a tough one. Oh man, that is. Oh man.
And think about the style breakdown, Jack. Lomachenko likes to push it back, and Shakur can fight going back.
But Lomachenko is coming at you from crazy angles, something Shakur's never seen. Shakur controls guys, but they come straight at him, or if he has to meet him in the center of the ring.
Yep.
But Lomachenko is moving to the left, moving to the right.
But he's never seen anybody like Shakur either.
No. I mean, the style might be off the rails.
Hey, Paul.
The Lomachenko who fought Devin Haney loses to Shakur. I mean, I have no doubts about that. That wasn't the same Lomachenko, but that shows you how good Lomachenko is past this prime. And
wait a second. You said, what did you say? Oh, the Lomachenko
who fought Devin Haney. That doesn't beat Shakur Stevenson. He loses to him. But
how about the Lomachenko that fought Teofimo?
Loses to him. But I got the feeling that Lomachenko was slipping by that point. I actually picked Teofimo to actually stop Lomachenko in that fight. And I didn't know the Lopez's at the time. That was a valid pick. But I don't know.
That's why I said to him, Jack, give me a year.
Nakatani had a poor performance in his last fight. That was supposed to be
which sways our thinking.
Oh, I got it. In a way against Bam Bam Rodriguez.
I mean, that would be a big draw, Jack, because we'd like to see that. I would favor Inoue, and I'm a big Bam fan.
It's a great fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Inoue would be a little too strong, though.
That's a third one. Okay. They would have to, the weights would have to match up, but it could be done. Yeah. Okay. That's a third one. And I guess we have to, we could fill it in with Virgil Ortiz, Boots Innes.
Jack, you act like that's a scrub fight. That's not a scrub fight. It's two of the best guys at that weight.
It's a great fight because when you look at all the big fights that could be made, that's obviously, as we've just proven, one of the biggest that can be made. And that's the fight that most logically is the easiest fight to be made. Atama's not. They're going to hold him back. They're not going to match him with Usyk now.
If Usyk offers a fight, would you take it?
If Usyk was offered the fight, what do you mean?
If Usyk said offered Atama the fight, and with the belt on the line, would you take it?
No. Because there's
Really?
no, I wouldn't take it if I'm Otama for this simple reason. There's no pressure on Otama to take the fight. Now, people understand he's still developing a little bit. He hasn't quite gotten to the point where there's a demand for the fight. So no one could accuse Otama of ducking it right now. And they're also going to want to wait for Lomachenko to maybe get older, retire,
You mean
whatever.
Usyk?
And Usyk, I mean, I'm
Right.
sorry, I said Lomachenko, Usyk, to get older, retire. And what they're thinking of in the UK, yeah, I mean, we would sooner, if we have to match Otama, maybe with, Wardley, Du Bois, let Fury get older. I mean, Joshua, perhaps, at some point.
So
Yeah.
Turkey calls Otama's people tomorrow morning and says, "You have the fight, July. All the belts. You're not taking it."
No, unless Turkey came up with crazy money. Crazy money. People forget opportunities sometimes show up you don't expect. Eddie Hearn, when they signed Anthony Joshua out of the Olympics as an Olympic gold medalist, the plan was to develop Joshua slowly to get to a championship position. But then out of nowhere, Charles Martin, the IBF champion, who wasn't much of a fight, it wasn't a championship caliber fighter, but yet he held the IBF title. He calls Joshua out as champion. And Eddie Hearn is stunned, figuring, we could beat this guy. Why not just take the fight? And we're locked to beat this guy. Even though we don't want to fight for title yet, they were practically handing Joshua the title. All he had to do is beat a guy who he was expected to beat.
Jack, if I'm Otama, I take the fight, and I'll tell you why. Usyk is going to be 38 or just turned 38. Okay. Otama has a tough style to fight. He can punch. He has fast hands. He throws them. He believes he cannot be beat. The other side is if I'm in his corner, I know whether or not he has a chin. And Usyk is not a big puncher. Other than Du Bois, he doesn't stop any of the top guys. So I'm thinking, worst case scenario, my guy gets outboxed and loses the decision. But this guy is clearly the best heavyweight of maybe the last 20 years. And it almost, not quite, it's not the greatest comparison, but it's almost like when Mancini lost to Aguayo. Even though Mancini was hyped up, it's like he gave Aguayo a good fight. He was in the fight. He went 13 or 14 rounds, and it didn't hurt him. It's like, okay, we'll come back in a couple of years, and we'll make it right this time. So if I'm Otama, I take that fight for all the reasons I say. I don't think I can get knocked out, and maybe I catch this guy on the right night because of his age. Maybe he's not what he was. He looks past me. I definitely take the fight.
If it's life-altering money, you take the fight. You absolutely take the fight if you're Otama, because even if you lose and your career doesn't work out, you have that financial security. I get that. But there are very few blue chip prospects. You don't mess around with them by overmatching them on the way up. Even the greatest fighters, you could overmatch him very early in their career. Not that he was overmatched, but we were talking about Lomachenko. He lost to Lando Salido in his second fight, close decision, 15 rounds. But you want to know something? Had he waited 6 months to a year for a fight like that, he would have won.
But Jack, it didn't hurt his career.
No, it didn't hurt his career, but you don't want to have that little stain there on the record, on the legacy. It kind of sometimes comes back to haunt you in a way. You look
But like
back,
you said,
yeah.
If it's big money, Jack, I'm taking it because I think I have a shot to win. I have nothing to lose unless I get blown out in the first round.
Something to lose. If you're Otama, when you're blue chip prospect, you have something to lose. I mean, let's say you get beaten soundly and you come back and you're a great fight. It hurts you. Case in point, Canelo. You don't think that bothers Canelo, the Mayweather loss? He'd be thinking the whole time, oh, had I waited, I could have beaten him, this and that. I don't think he would have, and you don't think he would have. But That's brought up all the time.
In the
and
heavyweight
that-
division, Jack, I don't think it would hurt him as much. And then here's the other thing too. Look, in the heavyweight division, it seems that the good guys are always one big fight away from getting another shot. But you don't know if you're managing Otama, you don't know what could happen. He could get hit in sparring tomorrow, Jack, and never be able to fight again. He could get into a car accident. How do you turn down the undisputed title for all that money?
Turn down the money. If the money, it's mega money.
But it will be life altering money, Jack.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what? What's life altering money? I mean, if he's offered 15 million for the fight, and Usyk is offered 50 million. I mean, you take it for that. The money.
I think it's a little bigger than that, Jack. For what we said, there's nobody else. Look, I don't follow this sport quite like I did, but I know enough about what's going on in the heavyweight division, and there's not one heavyweight out there that I could get any bit excited to watch fight Usyk right now. I don't care. It's not Wardley. It's none of those guys. There's no Cabal. I like him. He's good. Usyk will outbox him. The only guy that would have a shot would be Itama.
Deontay Wilder's fighting Derek Chisora. Wilder, to me, is completely shot. Chisora will probably win the fight. But, he's very long in the tooth, Chisora. He would be perfect fight for Otama. Perfect. And if Chisora, who elects to stay around for one more payday, even though he says he's retiring after this fight, that would be perfect. Okay? Perfect fight for him. And then there are other fights. Then a guy like Fabio Wardley, Otama will handle him, get one of the belts. And he gets one of the belts, he's got more leverage.
Jeff, what if he gets upset? What if he walks into one? You're right, exactly. That could happen. That's why you take the fight with Usyk if it's offered to you.
Yeah, well, I'd have to see what the money would be. You'd have to sit down and see what the money would be. If the money's truly life-altering and you sit him down and he's responsible and saying, look, I think you're going to win the fight, but the worst that'll happen, you lose the fight. After taxes, you're going to have approximately this much. You're going to be set for the rest of your life. The money.
If you never fight again.
If you never fight again, you're going to be set for the rest of your life. That's motivation to take the fight.
I just think because he brings some things to the table. And the heavyweight division, guys don't have 40 and 50 fights anymore like they do in the younger and the lower weight divisions. And it's just the idea that if I lose to Usyk, I'm probably going to get outboxed. He outboxes everybody. He's not going to embarrass me, and he's not going to stand over me and run around the ring and mock me. I would take the fight.
There was the biggest fight this past weekend. There was an upset. Nick Ball, a lightweight belt holder, lost his title to Omar Figueroa. It was
and what was supposed to be a terrific fight.
A terrific fight. It was the fight was up for grabs. 2 to 3 judges did have Figueroa ahead, and the fight was in Liverpool, Nick Ball's hometown. And at the start of round 12, they exchanged punches. I mean, Ball threw a left hook, and Figueroa beat him to the punch with his left hook. Ball never saw it. And just at the very start of the round, Ball went down, a devastating knockdown. He got up. You thought maybe he could recover. He held his gloves this way when the ref waved him back, but then he got knocked through the ropes a moment later and it was stopped. And big upset there in Liverpool, and the crowd was getting a little animated. It looked like it might be a riot because as soon as the fight ended, Figueroa's team was all jumping in the ring, going crazy. But there were too many.
And the other guy was still hurt.
But at that moment, that's a tough situation. I once talked with Michael Olajide about that, because I didn't like the body language of Paul Vaden. I went to a fight in Atlantic City. I forgot who was on the main event. It may have been on the undercard of Galata Lennox Lewis. Maybe. I might be wrong on that thing on the undercard.
Were you at that fight?
I was at that fight. Stephon
Remember they
Johnson.
couldn't find Galata?
Yeah, I mean, but I just want to make my point after this. Stephon Johnson died that night, actually, in the ring. And I remember when I was in the press room, I noticed he was fighting, and I'm thinking to myself, if he passed the medicals, didn't he have a brain scan Canada, or something where he wasn't allowed to fight? But he was fighting in Jersey, and I think it was the ninth round. Baden throws a jab. Johnson goes down and doesn't get up, and he actually dies. I mean, so tragic.
I forgot about that, Jack.
Yeah. But Baden is celebrating in the ring, like smiling, going around while the opponent is in distress. And it struck me the wrong way. But Elijah, was telling me fighters get in a zone and this and that. And I hate watching that happen when someone's celebrating, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're an insensitive individual. By all accounts,
Right.
Paul Baden's a very sensitive person by, the accounts I hear. But you wish sometimes they would stop the celebration. I've seen fighters act that way. When Lee Wood knocked out Michael Conlon, he told everyone, stop in this corner, like, wait, we'll celebrate when he gets up and he's okay. But it's not always easy to, shut it on and off.
You get caught up in the moment.
Yeah. But,
Jack,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's two other fights we could discuss. And I have something else I want to discuss. We'll save that for the last couple minutes. Sebastian Fundora is going to fight Keith No Time Thurman.
I have no time for him.
Yeah, No Time Thurman, March 28th. Thurman's talking like he's going to set the world on fire, and Fondora's acting like Thurman is a Hall of Famer and how lucky he's going to be to fight him and share the ring with him. I hope Fundora beats up Keith Thurman and we just don't hear about him anymore, because there's a guy, like you said, no time for Keith Thurman, wasted his ability, scored some nice wins, but didn't capitalize on them.
Keith Thurman, he strikes me as being a nice guy, a genuinely nice guy.
A cerebral guy. Yeah, a well thought out guy. I agree.
Yeah. I think he puts on this act of promotion to this, to that. I don't think he has any hate for any of the opponents.
No, I agree. But he don't fight.
And Fundora seems to be a nice guy. They got to pump the fight up, but I don't want to hear Fundora say he's fighting a future Hall of Famer, even though you never know in this day and age, Thurman might make it into the Hall of Fame.
No, you're right.
But
yeah, I don't dislike Keith Thurman personally. I just don't. He doesn't fight, so I have no time for him.
No, the thing that bothers me is Fundora. I'm not sure who the lineal champions are anymore outside of heavyweight. I'm just not sure. I mean, certain divisions, I know Bivol is the lineal champion at light heavyweight, but is Fundora the lineal champion regardless? Why is Thurman, who's had 2 fights since 2019, 2 wins since losing to Manny Pacquiao? That was what, 6.5 years ago?
That was a while back.
Title shot. Do you mean to tell me you could win 1 fight every 3 years against so-so opponents and be given a title shot?
Jack, if you have a name and he only has 1 loss, and it was a good loss.
He hasn't been fighting, Frank.
I understand that. I know.
Listen. I'm going to say my Jets are the greatest NFL team in Super Bowl history because they're unbeaten. They only played in 1. So I'm not going to compare the percentage, the stats. Come on, give me a break here. I mean, Keith Thurman doesn't deserve any type of title shot based on merit. I'm not saying he's not talented. He might even win this fight. I haven't analyzed it yet, but
I'll bet you lunch on that he doesn't win. Jack, there's another fight that I want to touch on something else real quick. Supposedly Earl Spence is going to fight Zoo this summer. So that's what, 4 or 5 months away.
Yeah.
Zoo's taking a couple beatings, and we know what happened to Spence. Do you think it happens?
I could see it happening. Because if the fight, I could see it happening in Australia, where they would pay Spence big money. But you would think if I'm Errol Spence, What did you do with the money from the Crawford fight, let alone the other fights? You should be
Well, I
set
don't
for
know. I
life.
don't think there's an issue about him needing money. I think he wants to fight again.
I would,
It's 2.5
I would.
years.
That's intriguing. Who would you pick? Zoo looked like he was retired, had taken some beatings, and so on. If the fight's in Australia, I mean, I would think that Zoo, I would give him a little edge there because I think his aggression, his physicality, and I don't know whether Spence has anything left at all. I don't know.
And
Maybe
that's
he
very
does.
hard to judge. It's hard to
It's hard
gauge.
to judge both guys. It's hard to judge.
Exactly. I know
You're
this
talking
much,
about
though.
negatives, Frank. Those are the hardest fights to pick when you're talking about negatives.
If I'm in Zoo's corner, I'm saying you jump on him the first round. You go right out there, and either you get him in 2 or 3 rounds, or you're going to lose. Because I would not want to give him a chance to get his feel back and get his sea legs under him, and let the fight start, heating up a little bit. Because I think the longer it goes, it might favor Spence. Okay, we'll see if that happens. Jack, you made a post the other day about the Michael Spinks book.
Oh
Michael
yeah,
Spinks is
yeah,
one of the greatest light heavyweights in history.
yeah. That I'm
Tell us,
holding up
give us an
talking on
update.
it. That should be out in a few weeks. I'm still with the publisher. A couple of things have to be ironed out, but it should be out in a few weeks. But
Are
that
you
was
happy with the way everything went?
Let's put it this way. It's not over till it's over. We have to iron out a couple of things. Where the photos belong and so on.
How
So
about as far as information that you wanted to glean before you wrote the book? Is there anything that you wanted to get from Michael regarding his career? Anything that
no,
maybe you didn't quite get enough?
I got everything off him. I wanted to get Denzel Washington to do the foreword, the actor, because he was really close with Butch Lewis and friendly with Mike, and that didn't quite work out. I mean, the people who I thought would get me in touch with Denzel Washington didn't quite do it. Yeah. So, so that part about it. I had some hope for that. I was thinking big on that term.
But
And
as a
excuse me,
boxing junkie, when I read the book, am I
I
going
have
am
you
I
quoted
am I
in
going to
there,
get my
Frank.
fix?
Well, yeah, you'll get your fix because I have you quoted in there.
No, I mean as far as like about Spinks, because obviously you
Oh,
know
you'll
much
get
better than
everything
me.
with Michael Spinks. Yeah, I have a really good Olympic chapter. I talked to some of his Olympic teammates. What went on during that time. I interviewed Larry Holmes, Bob Arum, Don King. Yeah, it's
Is there
really good.
anything in the book about a possible fight and what happened with him and Hagler?
No, we didn't really get into that. I think, well, we did get into that. He did make mention that there was an offer for Hagler. Hagler didn't want to, take the fight, but you can't. But you can only go so far with something like that
Something
because
like that, right?
Hagler. It was Hagler's right. He was a career middleweight. I'm not going to go into criticizing him. The only chapter that I think could be controversial that I have in there is at the very end, just hypothetical matchups because Ivro has 5 light heavyweights rated ahead of Spinks. So I do a comparison between him and them, trying to make a case for Michael. Not just, winning why he may have been great. They're kind of playing devil's advocate. So that might get a little bit of a buzz. But when you see these social media posts, Frank, how would Spinks do against Roy Jones and Bob Foster and guys like that?
He always comes out ahead.
He always holds his own, even with the great Roy Jones.
I think he comes out, Jack, the ones I've seen, he comes out ahead.
Yeah, so it just shows with the public, how they look at him, so on.
I think, here are the guys I think give Michael trouble. I'm not going to count Langford because he didn't win the title.
Yeah, we're on the last minute, Frank.
I think Archie Moore, I think Ezra Charles, and I think Billy Conn, because of style, could be a problem. But I could make a case for him defeating those 3, just as I could probably make a case where they might edge him out too. But he is in the conversation. If I will say this, is there's anyone that doesn't have him in the top 4 or 5 light heavyweights ever, they just don't know boxing.
Well, if Belichick didn't make it in the Hall of Fame in football, anything's possible.
But that was
gotta get
political.
done. Okay, so I'll see you next week, Frank. Looking forward
Take
to
care,
it.
everybody. Thanks for watching.
Take care.